Hey, everybody. Welcome to How to Be Mesmerizing. It's Tim Shurr. And in our special CEO Secrets series, we have another extraordinary CEO with us today. Lorne Rubis is with us. Lorne, thanks for being on the show today.
Happy to be here, Tim. Congratulations on your mesmerizing podcasts. They're making a real contribution to conversation and learning. So thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that as well. So Lorne, you are the Chief Belonging Officer and founder of Belongify, which is a very powerful personal coaching or business coaching program. So through your 40-year career, you've been in the C-suite, making positive transformation happen. Your career journey has sparked a passion for advancing people and building extraordinary, highly adaptive cultures. And so you are a celebrated author and instructor at Harvard University and also the University of Alberta in Canada. And you are also included in the HRD Global 100 list as one of the world's leading people leaders, which is a very big deal. And finally, you were also awarded the 2018 Canadian Lifetime Achievement Award for contributions to the human resource community and for advancing the workplace. So I'm not sure that I've even smart enough to interview you, but I'm going to give it a shot.
Hey, if you hang around long enough, something happens. That's about it, Tim.
That is wise advice right there. Yes. All right. So, Lorne, you believe a feeling of belonging is at the core of high-performing workplace cultures. So tell me a little bit about belonging and how it turned into your company, Belongify.
Yeah. So when you stand back and look at, the essence of what happens in organizations, and you work from the belief that people are the source more than the resource. If you think about people are the source of everything that gets done, Tim, really.
Yeah.
Whether it's the IP of the organization, the business model, the strategy, whatever happens, the source of anything happening is people. So if you work back from that and you look at this investment that we bring to an organization when we show up, then really the benefit to both us personally and to the organization is that we get to thrive. And in order to thrive, that we need to belong. And so the beautiful thing about digging into the word belonging, and your previous guest on your last podcast, Monica DeWalby, did a great job describing that, diversity is a fact, and equity is, making the fairness and putting the fairness into the fact of diversity, and inclusion is kind of inviting everybody to the dance, and then belonging is when they get to choose the music and be part of the dance as well, right? So it fills out everything, and belonging is the last piece of the diversity, equity, inclusion framework, and putting attention on it specifically is such a wonderful thing, Tim, because at the end of the day, while we contribute to the diversity perspective, and certainly ideally we get the benefit of the fairness of the equity strategy of an organization, and we want to be included. At the end of the day, it matters whether Tim and Lorne belong and contribute. For us, we want to be seen ideally and show up to be seen, to belong and to contribute. And so when you peel everything away, if people are the source and they best thrive and the organization best thrives when they can belong and contribute, then that's worthy of some attention. And I think we can do better at it. And we're doing our little bit at Belongify to make a small contribution. But the end with that is that we hope it catches fire beyond just a theme, that we start to put more rigor behind it around how do we make that happen? How do we create conditions for that?
Yeah, that's so good. I love that. I love that quote that people are the source, not a resource.
They're the source. They're the source.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very good. So
if you read a book, Heart of Business by Hubert Joly, I was really intrigued with the fact when he turned Best Buy around as a CEO, that was one of his primary kind of strategies. It was a mind shift for him too as a leader to think about people as a source. And when you do that and you change it from that to a resource, you stop using language like people are our best resources and our people, which is a narrative of paternalism and historical historical model that frankly is not relevant, in my opinion, going forward into a more modern knowledge-based workplace.
Yes. The last, one of the last interviews I did with Javon McCormick, we got deep into the power of words, and we really pay attention, that old adage that sticks and stones, will break your bones, but words can never hurt me. And that's false. Words have tremendous power. Yeah.
It's like saying it's just business. It's not personal. That is the biggest bunch of baloney out there. Of course it's personal.
Well said. Yes. Yeah. Well said. It's very good. It's very good. So it's so important too for people like you to say that, because you're successful. You were in the C-suite for 40 years, and someone that's in that position right now might not listen to me, but they should listen to you. So,
well, I hope they listen to all of us. I hope we listen to each other, Tim, because that's part of it, right? I think, when you hang around with the Google people, and, they're not a perfect organization, but one of the things I learned, just whether I was in Mountain View or in Toronto or any one of their campuses, is they have a view that change in perspective is a change in IQ in a positive way, usually an EQ. And that comes from really listening and understanding and using phrases like how might we and have we considered. And, that reinforces this notion that we all have a piece and a part to play in an organization thriving, really, which goes back us into the notion of belonging.
Yeah. Well, let's dig a little bit deeper into your Belongify system. So it's designed to advance any hybrid or remote team from anywhere, from where they are to where they want to go. So we're going to talk about, you have 5 principles here: connect, contribute, differentiate, and advance. And so let's go through each one of those real quick. So, so the first one is connect. And connect is with the idea of connection before content, right? Connecting before content. So talk a little bit about what that means to connect.
So Tim, I'm almost embarrassed to share how how profound this principle is and how simple it is. It's not simplistic, but how simple it is. Mm-hmm. And there are people, by the way, who know much more about this, the people at Berkeley who are doing stuff on belonging and othering and other real experts. However, here's what I do know as a leader of organizations is that you and I have a story, Tim. Mm-hmm. We have a personal story. Mm-hmm. And when you know my story and I know your story, we don't know, and not in a creepy way or a way that goes beyond boundaries that each of us are allowed to and of course need to have. But when we have bridges with each other, Tim, we can cross those bridges. And so when you work from the fact that people are the source, and that in order to recognize, and I need to see you and to show up to be seen, then we need to know a little bit about each other's stories, about who are you, Tim? Like, who do you care for in your life? Well, what do I know about the people around you that you love? Where do you like to hang out in Indianapolis? What's on your bookshelf that you're reading there? What drives you and all the passion that you have and the things that, the things that you do? And when I know that about you, Tim, and you know some things about me, then we have a bridge. And when an organization starts about its business, all I'm emphasizing is the importance of connecting with people first before we dig right into content. And that is at the most simplistic way around. But before, I believe, for example, before a meeting starts, a leader ought to just check in with everybody. Hey, even if it's, hey, 1 or 2 words, how are you doing today? Because if somebody is way off, and if you were having that meeting and someone said something rather dramatic, like my my father died today. So what do you do next? Okay, agenda item. Let's get into the objectives of the, I'm being a little bit more dramatic just to make a point. But now more than ever, in the hybrid worlds that we're working in, but even it doesn't matter. This idea that if people are the source, we need to connect before content.
Yeah.
Tim, if you and I went around, and I'm kind of feel like I'm unlocking a world secret here, but I wish everybody would do it. Oh, we just had one tool, you and I. That's it. And we went into every organization and we gathered people together for only 1 hour in groups of 20 or 30 and had them share their story about how they got to where they are right now. We would change the world. People would walk out of there and go, I didn't know, Tim, that you did that. That happened to me too. Or and there's, all of a sudden there's this compelling set of bridges get connected, and we get to walk across them all the time as we go about doing the world's business. And that doesn't mean that people don't have to leave organizations sometime, or some of the hard things that have to happen. It's just that it changes our world and mindset when we think of people as the source, not just a line item, not just a resource, not a head count, a source.
Yeah, it's powerful. It's the old saying that no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care, and connecting with people on that level, or a deeper understanding of, oh, well, you went through that experience. It makes sense that you might show up this way now, as opposed to I was taking it personal. Now I understand why you behave the way that you do. And that creates a new opportunity to connect with people and communicate in a more effective way.
I was on a call today with a team, and somebody was on, and we were doing one of the Belongify sessions, actually differentiate, and she was actually the leader, and she's going, I can't get on my Zoom platform. I've got a sick kid. I'm taking the child to to a meta clinic, and I mean, can you imagine if you didn't acknowledge that or empathize with it or appreciate it? Or she couldn't say that, or
right.
Would someone you deeply care about, how would you work with that person? And when I was the chief people officer of a large financial institution, the CEO and I used to onboard every single new hire. So we would do it in a monthly cohort. At that time, we could bring people face to face. And we started with the Zulu tradition of, because when the Zulu greet each other, they don't say hello, Tim. They have this beautiful thing. They go, hi, Tim, I'm Lorne, and I'm here to be seen. And Tim, you say to me, you look at me in the eye and you say, Lorne, I see you. I see you. And then you go, Lorne, I'm Tim, and I'm here to be seen. And I go, Tim, I see you. And in the Zulu tradition, not to undermine that beautiful tradition, it's a much deeper spiritual thing but the point is, in order to contribute and to belong, you have to be seen, but you have to show up to be seen too. It's a two-way street. You have to want to belong in order to belong, but you have to create conditions. And by the way, when I talk about belong, I'm not talking about compromising who you are. I think there's a little bit of confusion. Belonging means that, in order for me to be to be a leader, I've got to learn how to golf. You
have to fit in.
To fit in. I'm not talking in fact, I'm talking about the opposite of that, to bring your genuine self.
Yes.
But you have to be seen, and you want to see the other. So that's the essence of connect before content. And I'm trying to teach that and open it up, not in like we're trying to just break the model. Like we're igniting these conversations in teams in 1 hour microbursts of learning, and that's it. And we're doing it all virtually. And we don't have a full day session on connect before content. We probably could, but in the world we're working in today of total exhaustion and 1 hour meeting after meeting, when you can take a virtual team, and you could make that powerful connection in an hour. And you get a little bit of micro learning, and then you do some nudges along the way. Then it's amazing how a team can evolve from there.
Yeah, it's the 21st century training model.
It's
and
much
you're right there. Yeah. Oh, it's much different.
Yeah.
And
And
I admire what you said too about, there was a time not long ago where that mom would have had to choose between keeping her job or taking her sick child to the doctor.
exactly. Or would have been forced to, tell a fib about it,
Right.
or,
Right.
some horrible thing that we kind of institutionalize. We talk about institutionalized bias.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, we built these things in, right? Yeah. Which gets, I could go on a whole nother kind of soapbox around, why people are asking for this flexibility. And I'm really encouraging organizations not to say we're all going back to work. We've been
Oh,
working. We've been
yeah.
working. We
Right.
need to go forward into a new environment, and for knowledge workers in particular, where autonomy and flexibility is built in. But that's a different topic, Tim. But it is part of belonging, because your situation and mine and is very different. So the idea of belonging really becomes a matter. It's almost a plan of one.
Yeah. 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 Very cool. So your second principle, I'm calling it a principle, is contribute, right? And with the
Yeah.
belief that psychological safety is essential for
Yeah.
building strong teams and cultures. So, you and I both believe in the power of psychological safety. In fact, that last example, you got to feel safe enough to say, "Hey, my kid's sick, and I'm going to go take him to the doctor." And
Yeah.
or instead of trying to fit in, to show up as your authentic self and be accepted for that, and to know that there's not going to be consequences, or, you're going to lose a promotion or whatever else. So tell me a little, maybe a couple of ways that you are teaching mid-level leaders, because a lot of times there's an idea at the top and then it never gets down to the bottom
Yeah.
of a large corporation
Yeah.
because of the mid-level supervisors and team leads. So
Yeah.
talk about psychological safety and how people can create some of that.
Yeah. So in my Harvard class and my MBA class, where I teach a class on culture, one
Mm-hmm.
of the, I have 10 elements that I use. And one of them, Tim, is I believe it's a prerequisite to have psychological safety and belonging across the organization overall. I mean, you're not going to be perfect. We're imperfect human beings.
Right.
But let's go down to the core, the kernel of a business, which is sort of the individual and teams that make a business up, or any organization. Mm-hmm. And, of course, I take no credit for the psychological safety work. I mean, Amy Edmondson and all the beautiful work that she's done at Harvard, and there are so many really great academics have done phenomenal research. But I really was struck with Google's work on Project Aristotle that they did a number of years ago, where they spent, a considerable time in research. I mean, like millions of dollars, and they looked at, over a period of time, all the teams across Google. And they found that the one differentiating factor of high-performing teams to just, a range of other teams, whether sales teams or IT development teams or finance teams, was the condition for psychological safety.
Yeah.
And you go, wow, it makes a lot of sense, Tim, right? Because if you're afraid to show up and bring your best, then think of what you're leaving on the table. And Amy Edmondson has this beautiful phrase, is that a silent organization is a dangerous organization. That's very true. And it happens at the team level too. Like if people don't feel that they can bring their true authentic self and really, be all in, then you're only getting a part of the relationship done to work well. And so we just teach very four simple things, and other people do this way better. But we know these four things. Tim, if you and I can have crunchy conversations respectfully, in a timely way, then our relationship and trust goes up. Right? Because we can talk about the right things at the right time. That beautiful phrase that Susan Scott said, the relationship is the conversation, is the conversation is the relationship. So we really, really get people to work on practicing having these crunchy, timely conversations. I was at a meeting the other day where I was listening to executive talks and say they have their best meetings after the meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
Really? In the hallway afterwards.
Afterwards. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. You
Yeah.
go across organizations around the world. How much could we just productivity wise move the world forward if we just had people talk about the right things at the right time, or a little bit more, 20% more, right? So
Yeah.
that's one. The second is that, and I've seen this work, I have seen this works so insidiously in organizations. Almost any decent modern organization says that they're a learning organization. CEOs claim that they're a learning organization. They claim that they want to learn from mistakes until one happens. And then you really see what happens. And
it's funny.
And when that happens, Tim, if I'm working with you or around you and I make a mistake, which I'm going to do as a human being, and I get punished for it, and it's probably not going to be egregious. You're not probably going to yell at me, but what you may do is raise your eyebrows or murmur, "There you go again," or not give me another assignment for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Cancel my next 2 one-on-ones. And all of a sudden I feel like, geez, I there's no way I'm taking a risk anymore. Or if I am, I gotta walk on eggshells because, and I'm not a fan of people making mistakes. Don't get me wrong. I just know as humans, we're going to make them. But you've got to be able to be fast learners off that mistake and realize that blame is really waste, including self-blame. So that's the second condition we work on. The third is, and this is a little bit kind of a sneaky one. People don't think about it very often, but the degree that you and I can ask each other for help and offer help to each other and ask for it when we need it,
mm-hmm.
psychological safety goes up. Because I know Tim's going to help me. And if he sees that I'm in trouble, he'll probably reach out and, "Hey, Rubis, what the hell's going on? You look like you've lost your way, or can I help you?"
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or "What's going on today?
Yeah.
You're not your best self," right?
Yeah.
And
Just
the
a little
fourth
bit
thing
of compassion, and trust that, you'll be there.
Yeah. And then the fourth thing we work on is to take the veneer away, and we use everybody's work by acknowledging their work, not ripping it off, by acknowledging, like Brene Brown's work on vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
Take the armor off. Yeah, we have to bring our authentic self we have to, this idea that we have to hide some part of ourselves or steel ourselves up to be somebody different, or it gets in the way. And that backs into inclusion, it backs into equity, it backs into diversity.
Yeah.
In the best sense of the word. So we just ask people to try working on those 4 things, and they move the needle.
Yeah.
They intentionally move the needle. So now you're building a system, and we think about it systemically. Now you've built more bridges, so you learn more about each other. You're checking in more often.
Mm-hmm.
You're connecting before content. You got a mindset of people as a source.
Mm-hmm.
You're now working on the psychological safety just by working on 4 things. There's more. If you want to get really good at it, you can really. And, one of the things, for example, we just teach leaders to do is don't start your one-on-ones by giving feedback. Start by asking for it. How am I doing? How can I do better next time? How can I help you more? Just that creates so small little tool like that.
Yeah. Well, it might seem like a little tool, but it's a profound strategy.
It is.
And very
it's
powerful
and
shift.
It works. It just works. And the third thing, when we move into the third thing of Belongify, Clarify, remember, we do these in 1 hour microbursts.
Yeah.
I don't care. You give me the top team. You give me the top team of any top Fortune 10 organization or the frontline team, and I'll use the same process, and I'll pay back I'll pay back the fees if it doesn't have an impact, because we're kind of all trying to get there on these issues. The third one, and I realize when I work so much, is that the third one is clarify. And back to just endorsing some other great researchers and leaders out there. Brene Brown has this thing that clarity is kindness, right? When you ask people, let's check to see to what extent that people know what the purpose of the organization is, the purpose of the team, and their personal purpose to contribute to making the purpose more true. I'm not talking about the strategic objectives. I'm not talking about the business model, all that's important.
Right.
I'm talking about the reason you exist as an organization.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone cannot articulate why they are there, not beyond their job to make the purpose more true,
mm-hmm.
then the risk is that they're going to get involved in being measured by activity, not value.
Wow, good.
And so then you're going to get into, oh, you know, that Tim Shurr, we got to really promote that guy because, man, he works from 6 to 6 every day, man. And he's working on Saturdays and Sundays. And man, that Tim, he's you know, or we say things like, you know what? When you know what, Tim, you don't miss a meeting. You're at every meeting, you're attentive or you know what, you clean out your inbox, your Gmail or your inbox. So what?
Yeah, that's right.
Who cares?
Yeah.
What I care about and what you and I care about is that if we're clear on the purpose and that we get clarity around the value that we bring in our role, why we exist, and we can connect that to our team purpose, our department purpose, our organization purpose, then we're start to talk about the right things and doing more of the right things and bringing value versus transaction.
Right. Well, people can get behind it, right? You have, if it's meaningful work and you've articulated it, then people can get behind it and then they can lean in and add more value. But what you're talking about is the cornerstone. If you don't have all of that other stuff, you know, if you don't have clarity on what the soul is of your company, you know, and you can't articulate that to other people, there's no chance for them to feel like they're, you know, going to find meaning in what they do.
Yeah. You know, when I was the chief people officer and I just joined this bank and I went to, we were the people and culture team were responsible for onboarding. So I sat down with a group of young retail bankers that had just joined our frontline banking people. Now this is retail and in the branches. And I asked, you know, one of the, in this case, it happened to be a younger woman, why she came to work at the bank. And she said her mother wanted to get her out of the house. So I'm thinking, this is your brand.
I mean, she was honest,
and I mean,
but she hadn't been enrolled yet. Yeah.
You know, but our job was to help her make a connection.
Right.
To why she was there.
Yes.
To make a personal, emotional connection for her, to make it matter. Because, you know, do you want someone serving your customers who's there just because her mother wants her out of the house?
No.
And of course she probably doesn't want to either. But you know, she was in her early days and younger in her career. And I'm not being harsh here. This was really our issue to really. But the point is, you've got to have. This happens at the top of the organization. I'm talking about senior VPs when you say, what is your, you know, what's the real fundamental value to making the purpose more true? They start mushing a bunch of, you know, objectives and tactical stuff. And yes, that's important. You got to get stuff done.
Or to get as much return to our stakeholders as possible.
You know, in the banking world, the operating guide for a bank has got 630 pages of a retail bank.
Wow.
If you live to make those 630 pages come true, I guarantee you the purpose of the bank will get lost somewhere in some policy. So you have to really work hard as a leader to make sure that you're clear. And that's a never-ending process. But when the clarity is defined and you feel like you, Tim Shurr, of course you're a key part of the thing. Because without you, we can't make the purpose as true as we need to.
Yeah.
So, you know, so it's kind of endorsing that. And that's hard. That's hard work. And it seems quite simple, but the one way we do it is we get people to write down what they think the purpose is, and you write it down and they can share it with each other right in that first hour. It's like, whoa, we're all over the place.
All over the place. Yeah. Even when people think that they're on the same page, often they are not even close.
Not close.
Yeah. And you know, just having a mission and purpose statement, you know, it really just ends up being a piece of paper on the wall.
Exactly.
It's just don't even know what it is.
It's just not sufficient. And not only does there have to be kind of a value connection to it, but genuinely, you need a personal, emotional connection to it. Otherwise, you're just punching it in.
Right.
And not every, like I say, we're imperfect human beings, and no one, some days you're just off, and or sometimes it's even months, but the idea of trying to bring as much clarity in why you're so vital, of course, then you need to optimize the belonging and contribution, right? Because we wouldn't make it as far if you weren't there with your contribution. So we need to be intentional about it. Yeah. So, and the self-accountable piece in that is then people start asking themselves, because it's really unfair to people when they go home and they say to their, loved ones and their partners or whomever, God, what a hard day I had. I did all these emails. I went to all these meetings and I went to all that. I'm exhausted. But what if they were making no difference or real value? What if they were, and sometimes that's what happens to people. They end up getting lost in activity, but they're exhausted. Yeah. And wow. So we try to bring that clarity. Differentiate is a little bit, the fourth one is a little bit more fun. We kind of get teams to be aspirational and think, what if you were on the stage and you became a winning team and you were acknowledged by everybody to be phenomenal? And we get them to craft that narrative. And we get people to look for signature kind of, like I was just working with the team today on differentiate. And one of the ways that they want to differentiate themselves is on the welcome when they bring new people on. Mm-hmm. So, and they want to do it like 10 times better than anybody else. So that's sort of a signature differentiator for that group. And then they also want to become renowned storytellers on the impact that they bring to their customers. So they want to become like they want to become almost obsessed and crazy with impact storytelling. And those are not by themselves sufficient, but just the idea of a narrative around creating a kind of a narrative reading, you almost have to create a visual sensory picture of a desired future state where you go, if we get these results and behave this way and with the evidence of these measures, then we will differentiate ourselves. And how fun is it to be part of that? The idea is that if you can trigger that kind of thinking in every team, mm-hmm. and be abundant, and there's room for everybody on the stage, mm-hmm. then how cool is that? Yeah. So, those four fundamentals, 4 1-hour sessions, it's that simple and that hard, and then we do just a follow-up to try and keep momentum going, and we're trying to figure out how to do it better and keep momentum and change the world one team of belonging at a time, and see if we could ignite a little fire in a scalable kind of a way for other people to do it. And if every team did that for 4 hours, you'd move the world. Yeah. Wow. Awesome. Now, the fifth principle that you have is advance. So where you learn fast and you improve relentlessly. So how do you help people get past their own limiting beliefs that they don't have enough time to improve relentlessly because they've got, piles of work to do and they're trying to hit their numbers and, all the transactional stuff that's going on. So, I'm obsessed with unconscious beliefs. And one of them that people have all the time is, I don't have enough time to, I don't have enough time to train my people. I don't have enough time to, get my work done and still find ways to be innovative. How do you help them get past that? Well, one of the first things we could do, and I hope you're helping with this, is that we just need to expunge the idea that we don't have enough time. Yeah. Because we all have the same amount, right? We all do. You and I have got exactly the same amount of time. Mm-hmm. And we both know that. The second thing is we have to get rid of the idea that that somehow things are going to slow down, because that's not going to happen either. Mm-hmm. Just when the pandemic goes away, then everything is going to be, we know that's not honest. Yeah. Right. The idea that we're in the slowest time we've ever been in right now is probably more accurate than less, right? So mindset wise, it has to be about where do I put my energy and choices I make around leverage. Mm-hmm. And if you're a leader and both an individual and a leader point of view, what other business do you have other than getting better? Yeah. what other, like, what other really are you trying to do? Like, stay neutral?
Yeah.
I've got time to not get better. I've got time to just, like, I find it kind of like we've made it an either or, not an and. Of course, you got to get numbers. So why are you having all those meetings and doing all those things you're doing to, so how can you say you don't have time to, now, can you use time more efficiently? That's why we're trying to do, 1 hour microbursts. I don't know. Does it work? I don't want to be trivial about it. I don't want to just say, we'll take calculus and teach it in an hour. That's not going to happen. But like you say, more modern learning methodology might be why these microbursts and continuing the conversation creates more self-accountability and follow-up, and that it's over a period of time. It just doesn't happen. If you and I had a silver, that had a magic wand that we could make everything happen just through learning stuff, and I've heard you say this many times in your comments, Tim, it just doesn't work that. We have lots of information. Is what causes us to make a personal emotional connection experience to act on stuff, right? And to move forward. But when you say, well, that's my whole job in life, is to get it to, I'm good enough for who I am from a point of view of a self-acceptance, compassion, empathy point of view. But I'm also in the business of trying to continue to grow and evolve as a human being to make a contribution to myself and to others. Yeah. What else is there in life to do? So how can people say, oh, gee, I don't have time?
Yeah. We have to make time to be able to stop and pause and make sure that we're kind of using our meaningful work, our core values as a compass to make sure that we're on the right path and that we're charging forward so hard and we're going to end up in the place we want to. So many times we charge forward and we feel like, even the place we get to, who cares, because we make more money or we hit our numbers. Well, now I have another pile of paperwork and now we're supposed to make 10%, above that, and so the game never ends. And so we have to change the rules. And I think the companies have to help support and put systems in place to be able to make that and conversation instead of it being either or. It's got to be transformational and transactional.
Yeah. And I've been in the C-suite. I've worked directly for the chair of a Fortune 50 company. We had 60,000 people. I was one of 7 people reporting to him.
Wow.
I've worked for a sports entertainment company where, I was, it was a small business, but it was a high profile hockey club, National League Hockey Club. I've been in these different environments. And the biggest laugher is that somehow the C-suite is too busy. That is not true. The C-suite loves to get caught in the ego of being in the C-suite, and oftentimes they create this agenda of and I think they're the ones that are responsible. We are the ones in those roles with the privilege to take the time to work on things like the culture of the organization.
Yes.
To work on the strategic stuff, the resources of the organization, to create conditions for people and the organization to thrive. That is our job. Yes. But you get caught up. I've got that risk meeting. I've got that, I got to do the finance meeting, and then I've got to go do this and do that, and then pretty soon your agenda is full, and you've got all this self-importance around you, and then you got all those stupid symbols that the reserved parking and your fancy little office and all this BS that goes around you that I think distracts leaders from doing the work that they should do.
Wow. Well said. Well said. Yeah. That was very good. So, your clients rave about how affordable, scalable, and repeatable your process is. So is it just from years of experience and where we're at with the way that people want to consume information now that you were able to hit it out of the park with all 3 of those areas? Affordable, scalable, repeatable?
Tim, you're being very kind. We're a long way. We're early days yet. we're trying to figure out how to scale like anybody who never does anything successfully, and the scale may in the long run outrun me, but we're working at it, and we need lots of help from the world to make this. I'm at a point in my life where I feel that this idea of that as human beings, we have a right to work in great places.
Mm-hmm.
And those of us the privilege to lead need to think about the responsibility we have to make workplaces great, not perfect, we'll never be perfect, mm-hmm. and to give people a full chance to thrive. And I hope somebody comes along and does it better than we do. I hope the world just explodes on belonging, and we'll do our best to make our contribution. But if someone can do it better than we can, man, I'm cheering for them all the way. I just think it's one of the top needs we have in the world to be part of, to belong. I mean, what's it we want? It's the human condition.
Yeah.
So, and if we can turn to think about that, think about how it's not perfect, but when I feel like I have a sense of belonging, and mm-hmm. and also we're making the world better, gosh, that's a pretty good place to be every morning.
Mm-hmm.
And and I think organizations have to learn how to. Then this is a request to my HR community out there, because I don't think we've done a very good job of it. We need to create conditions for belonging, but also make it okay for people when they leave. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because it's hard to really commit to the idea that, because every one of us are going to have a last day, period, mm-hmm. and a last mm-hmm. day in an organization.
Yeah.
So how do I invest myself and be all in, knowing that one day someone may ask me to leave?
Yeah.
And the only way that I think we can get there is to change the conditions of what leaving looks like, which means that, unless it's egregious, that it's the mm-hmm. most dignified thing we could possibly do for someone. Yeah. To say goodbye in the right kind of way, to thank people for their work, to help them with their next journey. So there's my little kind of pitch. That's almost a paradox, but in order to create conditions of belonging, you need to create the right conditions for leaving.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I was talking to someone else about the idea of retention, and he said, I don't like the idea of retaining people.
No,
I want people to feel like they are cared for, whether they're here or anywhere else.
Yeah, and great. And I think when CEOs say, I want to be cared for too, mm-hmm. And we're all humans in this environment.
Sure.
And you can cynically say, well, it's easy for you. You're making $20 million a year or whatever. But, and I get that, and no one's, but I think this idea of I'm retaining others, golden handcuffs, mm-hmm. all this nonsense. Mm-hmm. You have someone on a defined benefit plan that wants to go and punch it in and pack it in for the next 10 years because they're afraid to leave and lose their defined benefit plan, but don't have lost any energy around making a contribution. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine living in that world for 10 years?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Man, that must be the longest 10 years of a person's life. Wake up every morning going, I hate this, but I can't leave.
Yeah. 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 People feel that all over the place. I'm working a couple of different jobs, whether you're kind of at the top of the food chain or you are feeling like you're at the bottom of it, we feel locked in. And that's why, this program is about bringing humanity back into the workplace and the work that you and I are doing. And so many other amazing people out there with conscious capitalism or creating B Corps. And, we're evolving what work looks like in the 21st century. And it's very exciting.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of us working on it. And gee, I hope the movement gets bigger and bigger, and we just keep helping each other figuring it out. And and it's and the world's, I think the world, I don't know.
COVID helped make it ready. COVID sped it up.
We got kicked in the butt, and What a
Yeah.
good thing. And there's a lot of good things that can come out of that part around reconsidering and challenging these assumptions, Tim.
Yeah.
And people like you and fortunately I get a small little tiny voice, other people do. We're helping to raise some of these questions, ask, how might we have we considered, and challenge a lot of these assumptions that I think have been really kind of served us well maybe one time, but not going forward. So
Yeah. It's time to
belonging is
evolve.
part of the equation.
I feel like this has been a masterclass with, I love it. All the wisdom that you have shared from a lifetime of learning and giving and serving. And so how can people learn more about Belongify?
Well, if they go to belongify.com, or if they drop me a note at Lorne@belongify.com, or just connect with me on LinkedIn and ask them. We'd be happy to talk to people about it, of course, Tim. Anyway, yeah, thank you. And we'd love to have people. And by the way, if people, we are looking, one of the ways we are trying to go into the marketplace is to find coaches out there that have their own practice that would like maybe to add this into their portfolio. We'd love to have them take the Belongify process into their customers and find a way to make it easy for them to do it in a way that would add to their toolkit or their quivers or whatever the metaphor might be. But thank you for asking, Tim.
Yeah. And I encourage people to do that because it's very lonely being on your own all the time. And so you can be a part of the Belongify family, and that would be a very empowering experience on both sides. So Lorne, this has been absolutely fabulous. Thank you for being a mesmerizing guest on the show today.
Thanks for inviting me, Tim. And look forward for us staying in the movement, right?
That's right. That's right.
Thank you, Tim.